now we're going to throw in some shadows. And I will tell you just from my own personal experience, I think shadows are among the hardest things to paint. They're very hard to put a handle on because they don't, there's soft edges, there's hard edges. It's darker closer to the source, it's lighter further away. Everybody always asks me what color to paint your shadows. Well, shadows should be a darker version of local color, right? So the greens, the reds, the blues that are underneath the shadow should show through. The shadow should not be just a black gray mass. There's certain parts of it that will be, but the thing I want to emphasize here is the darker you go, the brighter you're saying the light source is. If the rest of your painting doesn't support that you painted that really dark shadows, so let's say, for example, I left the barn with more color in it than it has. And then I go in there and I start putting in really dark shadows. Well, it doesn't look like the barn has got that much light on it because it's got too much color showing through. Remember, light does what to color? It offsets it.
It offsets
washes
it.
it out.
Washes it out.
So the more color you put on there, the harder it's going to be to make those shadows look really, make the day look really bright. I'm just
I'm
messing around.
seeing some beautiful paintings with really washed out stuff, particularly snow scenes.
Well, snow scenes are a very different thing, right? So you've got really, you have to have really dark shadows in a snow scene to make the whites look white.
Right, right. And I've seen, it's the trees that I've seen, like the deciduous trees like that,
Mhm.
that they look really light and the shadows are really dark.
So what I'm going to do here is, in my original painting, my shadows are pretty dark, and they're also more on the gray side, neutral tint side. I'm going to make these shadows a little bit more blue. So I'm pulling in some
Halo?
neutral tint and some ultramarine blue and some burnt sienna, and I am making a shadow color that's dark but on the cool side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to work from top to bottom. So I'm going to put in the shadows that are furthest away first. So the first one I'm going to go after is this one here. I want to leave a little bit of a space there to show a highlight on that limb. And now one straight shot, straight to the barn, bam. Pretty good. Not too bad. And now I'm going to go up the barn and cross it, and I'm going to show, oh, look at that. So I'm not going exactly with what it has on the reference, and I'm not worried about it at this point. I'm more worried about what it looks like on my painting. So here's the question I'm going to ask you. Does that look like a shadow hitting the barn?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the answer to the question. When you ask yourself, is the shadow dark enough? Is the shadow light enough? Is the shadow blue enough? Is it gray enough? That's it almost, you know, so you could play the this or that where you put your reference right next to it and you look at it. But it may not, if your shadow values are not hitting the right level, it will be very apparent pretty darn quick. So I'm just dropping in some trees or some. Now, there's a ton of shadows in the reference picture. because there's a lot of limbs. That's fine. One thing I want to do when I get out on the edges of some of this is I'm using my I always want to say napkin. I'm using my paper towel to touch some of those areas, because the further away it gets, the lighter it should get. So I want to soften up some of those shadows a little bit. I'm also going to go in when I'm done, and I'm going to throw in some different greens, because I want, the grass right now is looking a little too flat. But I'm going to worry about it after I do these shadows. So next shadow, I'm going to work from here, come down, go this way, back over here. Not bad. Came out pretty good. Looks like a shadow. And I'm using a pretty big brush here, so when I'm done with this, I'll go back in and I'll add some more of the smaller shadows or the thinner lines using my rigger. Now, some of the shadows are lighter and some are darker, and as I come back over here and I've got a lot of on the ground, I'm going to make some darker, some lighter. I don't want them all the same, and I'm cutting, I'm picking some of it up with my paper towel to kind of knock some of it back a little bit. Closer it is to the source, the darker it should be.
Terry, in the photo, they seem to have, shadows seem to have softer edges than the other things, like than in the tree. Like.
Yep.
So, and you usually follow that?
Nope.
No. Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to do what's in the reference. You know, it's a photo.
Right.
And I'm going to come back in here in a minute and do some softer shadows, or some lighter shadows. And you can see I'm kind of being, but let me see what's going on here. Movie recording has stopped automatically. The maximum recording time has been reached. Okay, we'll start over. Some of these shadows have very hard lines, but not all. And the shadows that are the darkest are usually the ones with the hardest lines. The further away they get and the more diffuse they get, the softer they get. But if you look at these shadows that I put in here, all this mess of stuff that I'm putting in here, does that look hard-edged?
No.
No.
That's just because I've lightened the value of them up. But I'm putting them in dry brush. So, I mean, if you got up close and looked at them, they're hard-edged, but the value is lower. It's not as dark as the tree trunks. So it kind of gives you the impression that they're softer. Does that make sense? I will tell you, there's a lot of different ways to do shadows, and I'm not claiming that I have the only, I don't have a corner on the market of, hey, you got to do them this way. What I will tell you is, this is just the way I do it. Works for me. The hardest part about it is to kind of be random. That's what I find to be the most challenging part of it. Now, I'm put even more wash, can't talk. I've added more water to my wash. So this is going in really light. This is just random shadows that I'm putting on the ground. And some of it could be shadows of, the surface, but some of it is going to be, cast shadows. So there's a little bit of both working here. Now, I'm going to go with a little bit of darker greens over here.
That's what I was gonna ask. Should the foreground, whatever, be the way you want it before you start the shadows? Or-
I can go right up, watch this, boom. Go right over the top of them.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you, you could go either way. You don't have to do it the way I'm showing you. You could go with I could have done the grass before I went in and put the shadows in. One thing I'm doing, kind of the similar thing as I do when I'm dealing with like waves or water, is I'll put thinner lines out towards the horizon, and the closer I get to the foreground, the thicker I make them. And so what does that do?
Gives depth.
Gives depth. Makes it look like I'm dealing with depth. The other thing is if I'm painting these greens in over the top of the shadows, it kind of looks like the shadows are not opaque. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let this dry. Come back and take a look at it in a few minutes. What do you think?
Nice, really nice.
Very pretty.
Very nice.
Working out. But those are, you can see how I've layered from my lightest colors, then my midtones, then my darks, right? Then I went back in and did the shadows. There's more shadow work to do. I need to do more shadow work over here. We'll let it sit for a minute. But while we're letting that sit, let's take a look at this whole masking thing we looked at earlier, where it masked this off. And now it's dry. It's it dried kind of light because there's a color shift. But let's see what it looks like. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and put a little bit more color in a couple areas. And it won't matter that I'm getting ready to take the tape Alright, I just want you to see that you can go pretty dark over the top of it.
Get the shadows right.
Alright, so now I want to remove this tree, or the masking for it.
Sometimes you leave it and then go back.
And
Stay.
I almost don't have to mess with the edges on that at all.
Wow.
No.
And I could be as loose and free with the background as I wanted to be. And look how well it masked off everything. And this is just regular masking tape. Hold your applause.
I think that's a fun
It's
project.
hard to get the
I can't
front
wait to
dark
try
enough.
it.
The front of the picture, the dark shadows, mine is no way near dark enough.
Well, that's when I start pulling out the neutral tint or or go a little darker,
Yeah.
mix up a darker color. So there you go. There's a way to mask stuff off. Here's another thing you can do. Now I could go in and put another mask over the top of that. Let's say I had some greens on there or something. I could mask off those greens and then paint in over that too. So you could do several different layers of masking. And it works really well. So we might try a little bit more of that on the next painting. What do you think?
So,
I'm impressed. I've always heard you have to use the professional tape. You always have to, use regular masking.
I went to Ace Hardware.
Yeah, I was gonna
Masking
say.
tape has gotten expensive too.
Yeah. This actually, I would say this tape here, I bought at the art store, and it's the Pro Tape, blah, blah, blah.
blue painter's tape. would
Don't
work
use
too?
blue painter's tape.
Why?
It doesn't mask as well. And it's harder to see through. I'll put it that way. It's
Well,
doable.
And I did hear somewhere
Now-
that if you use blue, it throws your color.
That's what I was about to say is more than anything, when you're painting and you're painting over blue tape, it will throw off your values and your color scale, what you're trying to paint. It'll be hard to ignore. Put it that way.
And don't use a dryer over it, because the dryer, from my professional life, I know that if you put like a dryer or heat over masking, it adheres it to the surface.
Yeah, it'll make it stick a little better. One thing I will say is you don't want to leave the masking tape on there forever. Like I wouldn't leave it on there for more than like a day or two. If you're gonna do it
So
with
you would
something
do
that's
it-
gonna be masked off for a long time, be careful. That's what I would have done. You definitely don't want to leave it too long.